This podcast is brought to you by Kion Aminos and all Kion products. Watch the video at the end of the podcast for more details.
Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show.
Is the new food guide all it's cracked up to be? Welcome to the Deepak Saini Show. I'd like to thank J23 for the intro music. You can find a link to her music in the show description. In today's Solosode, I want to share some thoughts on the new food guide released just here in January 2026. Now, I want to start off by saying something that might ruffle a few feathers, and honestly, I don't care if it does. The original food guidelines were flawed from day one. They weren't born out of clean, unbiased science. They were heavily shaped by politics, food industry advocacy, and fear-based hypotheses, especially around fat and cholesterol. In the 70s and 80s, just when I was growing up, we didn't actually know what we claimed to know. We made population-wide recommendations based on weak correlation at best, and certainly not hard outcomes. And yet we rolled them out as gospel for everyone, young, old, active, sedentary, sick, healthy, same advice. Also, same advice regardless of your ethnicity or culture. That mistake echoed for decades, essentially my entire life. Now, let's go back and get back to a little bit of the beginning before we get to my thoughts here. The first official U.S. dietary guidelines came out in 1980, and every other country, I live here in Canada, everyone else, basically followed shortly thereafter. Now, context matters here. This was an era of rising heart disease, very limited science when it came to metabolism, literally zero understanding of insulin resistance, gut health, like nobody was talking about that. And certainly, and even to this day, hardly anyone was talking about individual variability. The dominant belief was, fat clogs arteries, cholesterol causes heart disease, calories are calories. Those assumptions drove everything that followed since. For most of their history, the message boiled down to eat less fat, especially saturated fat, avoid cholesterol, base your diet on grains and carbohydrates, choose low fat or fat-free variations of foods. They gave us food pyramids with grains at the base, fats at the top, almost like a warning label, and also gave massive rise to ultra-processed healthy foods. Low-fat cookies, sugary cereals, protein bars pretending to be food. We all hopefully recognize that now. Obesity, diabetes, autoimmune diseases, metabolic dysfunction, all grew and exploded during the era of these flawed guidelines. Now, correlation isn't causation. It sure raises some uncomfortable questions. I think more people are awakening to this. So where are we at now? The newer guidelines have finally walked back some of those old assumptions. Now, regardless of what you think of the current administration, let's not make this a political thing. We're just going to go with where we're at now. There's now more emphasis on protein intake, nutrient density, and whole foods, which is great. There's less demonization of fats, less automatic push towards low-fat everything. Stronger language has been added around added sugars and ultra-processed foods being the real problem. A subtle but important shift from eat less to eat better quality. So in my mind, no question, this is progress. We have moved in the right direction. We've, walked back the last, 40 years of really bad science. So let's contrast those the old model and the current model here. So the old model tried to control health through macronutrient restriction, right? Controlling fats, carbohydrates, protein. The newer model focuses more on food quality and nutrient density, right? Are we actually getting? Are we eating foods that are actually good for us, that have a lot of nutrients? Again, a lot of those ultra-processed healthy foods actually had no nutrients. They're low in fat, low in sugar, sometimes low in sugar, but not very nutrient dense. The old guidance treated humans like interchangeable machines. Arguably, we're still doing this to some degree. New guidance at least acknowledges biology is more complex, even if it still stops way short, in my opinion. But here's the key, the key thing that most people miss. Even the new guidelines is still using population averages, right? One blanket for everyone. And here's where I push back. And if you followed me for any length of time, maybe you're new to me, this is where I push back. Even these approved guidelines still assume there's a one-size-fits-all approach. And there isn't. If anyone tells you so, this is BS. I understand the government has to look at things from a very macro level population-wise, but it's still BS. Two people can eat the exact same healthy food and have completely different blood sugar responses, inflammation markers, gut reactions, and energy levels. Some foods that are healthy for one person are absolutely kryptonite for another person. And you can't figure this out by guessing. You figure it out by testing micronutrient deficiencies, testing your metabolic response, testing inflammation, testing how your body actually processes the foods you eat. Now, guidelines can be a starting point, and these new guidelines are a step in the right direction for sure, but they should never be the finish line. Real optimization starts when you stop asking, what should people eat? Or, more individually, what should I eat? And start asking, what does my body actually handle well? What is my body craving? What does my body need? That's the question we should be asking. And that is what I work on with my clients. Getting to that root cause, getting the data so you have an individualized response for you. Now, we're moving in the right direction. We've peeled back some of the BS for the last 40 years. It's a step in the right direction, but it is still far, far short, in my opinion. If you want to upgrade your health, you need to take an individualized approach. You need to test and not guess. Again, if you want to know more, that's what I work on with my clients. If you want to know more and how you can upgrade your health, then book a Vitality checkup call. It'll be in the show notes. Let's get you really understanding where you're at now and where you want to go and what's the next best step forward for you. That's all I got for today. This little short update on the new health guidelines. Do also check out the show sponsor. I try and provide the best deals on the most quality products that I and my family use personally. I don't promote anything that's BS. I'm going to throw it back to J23. He's going to guide us out with some music. Remember, exceptional results for the exceptional you. Until next time. This podcast was sponsored by Kion and Kion Aminos in particular. This is my favorite post-workout thing to do. People are always talking about you need more protein. It's super important, especially as we age, as we're trying to maintain our lean muscle mass. Super important for both men and women. And essentially protein, that chicken, those eggs, whatever you're taking, breaks down into amino acids, which is what our body actually needs, what our muscle tissues actually uses. And essential amino acids, which these are, is what your body cannot produce, but they are essential for you. So you need to get them from food. And as with many other things, we're not getting the same nutrients anymore from our foods. And certainly if we're not eating the right protein sources, we're not getting our essential amino acids. So I love the Kion brand, number one, because they stay on top of the research. They are always reiterating their formula when new research comes out, and they're tweaking it. I think they've tweaked it 2 or 3 times already. So I love that about a brand. I use this myself to build lean muscle mass and maintain my muscle mass as I'm aging. So use the coupon code there to get 10% off of not only the essential amino acids, but all Kion products as well.
Podcast produced by the Minted Green Company,